$300,000 a year. That's what this guy makes. Top 5% of all Americans. And look at his face, because by the end of the month, he's got about 480 bucks left in his account. He's not bad with money. He's not buying lattes or sports cars. He's drowning in property taxes, grocery bills that doubled, and the healthcare premium that costs more than his first car. And he's not alone. If you live in any of these states and you make 150 grand or more, the math is brutal. And here's the part nobody on YouTube will tell you straight. It's not your fault. The system is rigged against high-income W-2 earners in America. Not by accident, by design. And it's costing you between 60 and 70% of every raise you've ever gotten. There are 9 specific traps eating your paycheck right now, and 9 specific levers to pull yourself out. Most Americans don't know about a single one of them. Stick around for trap number 7. It's the one Silicon Valley CEOs use to legally pay less in taxes than their assistants. Real strategy, real numbers, no fluff. So if you've ever looked at your bank account on payday and thought, where did it all go? This video is going to change how you think about money in America. Let's get into it. Here's exactly what we're covering today. 9 traps that are quietly eating your paycheck and how to escape every single one of them. By the end of this video, you'll have a real playbook, not generic budget advice. First, the federal bracket sneak nobody warns you about. Then the salt cap trick that just changed in 2026. Then the marriage penalty hammering dual income couples in big cities. Then the RSU double tax disaster crushing tech workers. The high cost of living salary lie your recruiter never mentioned. And the cheat code almost nobody at big tech companies actually uses. The W-2 ceiling keeping doctors and lawyers stuck. The golden handcuffs locking you into a job you hate. And the state arbitrage move that could give you a $30,000 raise without changing employers. If we haven't met yet, I'm Sam, and this is the American Finance, the channel where I break down the actual math behind American money, taxes, investing, retirement, real estate, the stuff your school and your boss and your bank will never explain to you. Quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. Always do your own research, talk to a licensed advisor before making real moves with real money. Cool? Cool. And one more thing before we start. Trap number 6, that's the one I mentioned in the intro. It's a tax-free wealth machine that almost nobody at big tech companies actually uses. Stick around, you're going to want to hear that one. Alright, sleeves up, let's start with the one most Americans get wrong before they even open their tax return, the federal bracket sneak. Here's what nobody explains in a way that actually clicks. The American tax system is a staircase. You don't pay one rate on everything you make, you pay each rate on each chunk as you climb up. And look, before you blame Biden or Trump or whoever, this isn't political, it's just math. The brackets have shifted over the years, but the structure is the same. Pay attention to the numbers, that's where the real story is. If you're a single filer in 2026, you hit the 32% bracket the moment your taxable income crosses $201,775. That's not even that high. That's a senior engineer in any major American city. So on a $300,000 salary, the IRS is taking around 72 grand in federal tax alone. That's before your state has even looked at you, before Social Security and Medicare, before your health insurance premium, before anything. Here's the punch in the gut. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security and Medicare, health insurance, a 401k contribution. By the time all 5 of those things take their cut, most 6-figure earners are bringing home about 58 cents on every dollar they earn. And here's the worst part. When you get a raise, say from $250 to $300, that extra 50 grand is the most taxed money you'll ever earn in your life. The IRS doesn't celebrate your promotion, they just take a bigger bite. Now, if you live in a high-tax state, this is where the real damage happens, because the federal hit is just round 1. Round 2 is the SALT cap, and what changed about it in 2026 is going to either save you a lot of money or punish you in a way you don't see coming. Quick refresher. SALT stands for state and local taxes. The property taxes, state income taxes, and sometimes sales taxes you already pay. The IRS lets you deduct a chunk of those from your federal income. But for years, that deduction had a brutal $10,000 cap. But here's what changed. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act bumped that cap from $10,000 all the way up to $40,400 for 2026. That's a 4 times increase. For homeowners in high-tax states, this is genuinely massive news. Imagine a married couple in a high-tax state pulling down 450 grand. They pay 25 grand in state income tax and 15,000 in property tax. That's 40 grand in SALT. Under the old rules, they could only deduct 10 grand. Now, they can deduct all 40,000. That alone saves them around 12 grand in federal tax. But here's where the trap door opens. The new cap only applies if your modified adjusted gross income stays under $505,000 in 2026. The moment you cross that line, your deduction starts phasing down, losing 30 cents on every extra dollar you earn. So check this out. A couple making 450 gets the full 40,000 deduction, but a couple making 700 grand, they're back down to the old 10,000 cap. They actually get punished for earning more. The SALT relief was a gift to the upper middle class, and a wall for everyone above it. And one more catch. This new cap isn't permanent. Unless Congress acts, the whole thing reverts back to the $10,000 cap in 2030. So if you're going to use it, you've got a window. 5 years. That's it. Now, there's a smart move people are using to keep their income under that $505,000 threshold and still build serious wealth. It's the trap number 6 move I keep teasing, and I promise we get there in just a few minutes. First, we have to talk about something even sneakier, the marriage penalty. Okay, this one is going to sting if you're in a dual income marriage in any big American city, because the tax code rewards marriage if one of you stays home, but it quietly punishes you if both of you make good money. Welcome to the marriage penalty. Picture two singles, each earning $180,000. Individually, they're sitting comfortably in the 24% bracket. They get married, combine incomes, boom, 360 grand. Now they're in the 32% bracket. Same income, same jobs, higher tax rate just for signing a piece of paper. Here's the math nobody tells you. In 2026, the 32% bracket starts at 201,775 for a single filer. For a married couple, it only doubles to 403,550. Not triples, not quadruples, just doubles. So two equal earners get squeezed. And if you got married in the last 5 years and your tax bill suddenly felt weird, this is probably why, especially if both of you got promotions. Each promotion stacks on top of the other and shoves you into a higher bracket faster than you can blink. And it gets worse. Remember that $505,000 SALT phase-out we talked about? That cliff edge applies to both single and married filers. So if you and your partner each earn 300 grand single, you're each below the line. Get married and you're at 600 grand combined, straight over the cliff. You lose tens of thousands in deductions overnight. Now, you might be thinking, fine, we'll just file separately. Slow down. Filing separately almost always makes things worse. You lose access to the Roth IRA, the student loan interest deduction, and a bunch of credits. The IRS designed that escape hatch to be a trap inside the trap. There are real ways to soften this, and we'll cover them in the escape framework at the end. But before we get there, we need to talk about the trap that's quietly destroying tech workers in this country, the RSU double tax. This one is brutal. Quick intro for anyone who isn't in tech. RSU stands for Restricted Stock Unit. It's how big American companies pay their employees in stock instead of cash. Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, Nvidia, every senior engineer or product manager gets a chunk of their pay in these things. And on vest day, it feels like winning the lottery. Here's what most people don't realize. The second your RSUs vest, meaning the moment they actually become yours, the IRS treats every penny of that as ordinary income, same tax rate as your salary. If you're in the 32% bracket, you just lost a third of your stock grant before you ever saw the money. But here's the double tax part. Let's say you hold those vested shares. They grow in value over a year or two. Now you finally sell. The IRS comes back again, this time as capital gains tax, 15 to 20% on every dollar of growth. Same shares, taxed twice. That's the disaster. Honestly, it's like the Super Bowl halftime show. Everyone's looking at the fireworks and the music, while the real action, the actual game changer, is happening off screen. The RSU vesting feels like fireworks. The double tax is the part you're not watching. Now, here's the mistake almost every tech worker makes. Companies usually default you to something called sell to cover. It sells just enough shares to pay the taxes and leaves the rest sitting in your company's stock. Sounds harmless. It's actually the biggest concentration risk trap in your portfolio. Here's the move smart tech workers use. The moment your shares vest, sell them. All of them. Yes, you'll pay the income tax, but you were going to pay it anyway. Then take that cash and immediately diversify into a broad market index fund like VTI or VTSAX. You skip the double tax. You skip the concentration risk. You sleep better. Over a 10-year career at a big tech company, this one move alone can save you well over six figures. Not a typo, six figures. Just from selling at vest instead of holding. That's a down payment on a house. That's a year of freedom. Now, even with the RSU disaster sorted out, there's another layer of the trap that's even sneakier. The salary lie your recruiter never told you. Because 250 in one American city is not the same as 250 in another, and the gap is way bigger than you think. Let's get into it. Quick reset for anyone just joining us. We're walking through the 9 traps quietly draining American high earners. So far, federal brackets, salt cliffs, marriage penalty, RSU disaster. Now we're at the one that hits closer to home than anything else, literally. Picture this scenario. Same job, same title, same skill set. One offer is $250,000 a year in a coastal megacity. The other is $135,000 in a mid-sized southern city. Recruiters love to dangle the bigger number. But are they really equal? Not even close. Let's run the map on that 250 in a coastal high-tax city. Federal tax about 55 grand. State tax another 20 grand. Social Security and Medicare 18 more. After taxes alone, you're at about 157,000 take home. Not bad, but we're just getting started. Now subtract rent in a coastal city. A one-bedroom apartment runs you around 3 to 4 grand a month. Call it 40 grand a year. Groceries cost 20 to 30% more than the national average. Then add car insurance, parking, transit, and the random stuff a big city eats out of your wallet every weekend. Your take-home is hemorrhaging. Now flip to the mid-size city offer, 135 gross. Federal tax drops to about 22 grand. State tax, depending on where, anywhere from 0 to 7 grand. Rent or a small mortgage runs you 1,500 a month. Groceries are normal. By the end of the year, you've actually got more money in your pocket than the 250,000 earner. Same job, more freedom. Read that one more time. 250,000 in one place is less actual money than 135,000 somewhere else. That's the salary lie. The bigger number on the offer letter is not the bigger number in your bank account. That gap is the trap. Now, look, I'm not saying everyone should bail on the big cities. There are real career reasons to be in them. Higher ceilings, denser networks, better promotion paths. But you need to know what you're trading. Most people sign the bigger offer without ever running this math. Okay, we've covered the trap side. Now we pivot to the escape. And this is the one I've been promising you since the opening of this video. The trap number 6 move that the smartest people at big tech companies use to legally build millions in tax-free wealth. It's called the Mega Backdoor Roth. Buckle up. All right, we just spent 10 minutes ripping open all the traps. Now we flip the script. Everything from here on out is the escape side. The levers, the moves, the strategies. And we're starting with the biggest one, the Mega Backdoor Roth. Here's what almost nobody at big American companies knows. The IRS lets you contribute up to $24,500 into your normal 401k in 2026. That's the limit you've heard about. But the total limit, including employer match and after-tax contributions, is $72,000. That gap is where the magic lives. Your 401k has 3 buckets. Bucket 1, your regular contribution from your paycheck. Bucket 2, your employer match. Bucket 3, and this is the secret one, is called the after-tax bucket. In 2026, if your plan allows it, you can drop up to $47,500 into that third bucket. Here's the magic part. You can then convert that after-tax money straight into Roth, either inside your 401k or by rolling it out to a Roth IRA. Once it's in Roth, it grows tax-free forever. Withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. The IRS literally cannot touch it again. Let me say that number again. $47,500 tax-free growth per year. That is on top of your regular 401k contribution, on top of your Roth IRA, on top of everything else. Run the math. $47,500 a year, growing at an average of 8% over 25 years. You end up with around $3.7 million tax-free from one bucket your coworkers don't even know exists. There is a catch. Your specific 401k plan has to allow two things. First, after-tax contributions. Second, either in-service withdrawals or in-plan Roth conversions. About half of large company plans support both. The other half don't. Call your HR person. Ask. If they don't know what you're talking about, ask them to find out. This conversation alone might be worth $1 million to you. And remember, that SALT cliff we talked about earlier, the one at 505 grand of income? Smart people use the Mega Backdoor Roth and pre-tax 401k together to keep their reported income below that line. They keep the bigger deduction and build tax-free wealth at the same time. That's the move the highest earners run year after year. Now, this works great if you're a W-2 employee at a big company. But what if you're a doctor or a lawyer or a senior consultant making 400 grand and your plan doesn't offer it? That's the W-2 ceiling, and there's a business owner cheat code that blows right through it. Let's get into it. If you're a doctor, a lawyer, a senior engineer, anyone making between 300 grand and $500,000 on a W-2, you've probably noticed something weird. No matter how hard you work, the wealth never quite shows up. There's a ceiling, a real one. And here's why. Pattern interrupt. Grab a pen for this one. Seriously. The next 2 minutes are going to be the highest dollar per second part of this entire video. If you take notes on one thing today, take notes on this. W-2 income is the most taxed income in America. Full federal tax, full state tax, full Social Security and Medicare from both you and your employer side. Self-employment income, same federal tax, but you can do things with it that W-2 earners legally cannot. Things that move tens of thousands of dollars off your tax bill every year. Cheat code number 1, the QBI deduction, qualified business income. If you own a pass-through business, a freelance consultancy, a side LLC, a small practice, you can deduct 20% of that business income before the IRS even calculates your tax. The OTTBA made this permanent, 20% off the top every year, just for not being on a W-2. Cheat code number 2, the S-Corp election. If you've got a profitable side business pulling, say, 150 grand a year, you can incorporate as an S-Corp, pay yourself a reasonable salary from it, take the rest as distributions. Distributions don't get hit with self-employment tax. That alone can save you $10,000 to $15,000 a year. Cheat code number 3, the solo 401k. If you're self-employed, you get to contribute as both the employee and the employer to your own retirement plan. That means you can stuff up to $70,000 a year into tax-advantaged accounts on a single business income. Your W-2 coworker pulling the same salary can't even get close. Here's the part most W-2 professionals don't realize. You don't need to quit your job to use any of this. A simple side LLC, even $400 to set up, opens the door to all 3 cheat codes. Doctors do this with consulting work. Engineers do it with freelance projects. The W-2 income still flows. The side business income flows differently. Now, even if you build a side business, even if you stack every tax-advantaged account, there's one trap holding most American high earners in jobs they hate: golden handcuffs. The healthcare tied to employer news that doesn't exist anywhere else in the developed world. We need to talk about that. Okay, this is the part that nobody on YouTube wants to say out loud. Most American high earners are stuck, not because they don't want to leave, because the system is built to make leaving terrifying. We call it golden handcuffs, and there are three pieces. Piece 1: Healthcare. In America, your insurance is glued to your job. The second you quit, Cobra kicks in, about 2,000 bucks a month for a family of 4. Compare that to anywhere else in the developed world where healthcare follows the person, not the job. Americans literally cannot quit the same way Europeans or Canadians can. It's a structural trap, not a personal failure. Piece 2: Unvested RSUs. Tech companies grant you stock that vests over 4 years. The first year, you get a chunk. Years 2 through 4, the bigger payouts come. If you leave before that final year, hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock just vanish. The company knows. They time the grants on purpose to keep you locked in. Piece 3: Your 401k match. Most companies vest the employer contribution over 3 to 5 years. Quit at year 2 and you might walk away with only half of what they put in. That's another $20,000 to $40,000 depending on your salary. Gone. Here's how the smartest American earners game the handcuffs. They don't quit on impulse. They plan the exit around the vest dates. Time the resignation right after a major RSU cliff. Stockpile 12 to 18 months of expenses in cash. And use a blue safe, your health savings account, to bridge the healthcare gap. The HSA is the most underrated escape tool in the entire American financial system. Quick HSA primer for anyone who's never used one. If you have a high deductible health plan, you can stash money in an HSA. The contribution is tax deductible. The growth is tax free. The withdrawals for medical expenses are tax free. 3 layers of tax savings. Nothing else in the American system gives you that. Use it as your healthcare escape fund. Now you've got the tools to break the handcuffs. But there's one more move that can give you something close to a $30,000 raise without changing employers, without changing your job title, and without doing anything more than packing a truck. State tax arbitrage. This is the one. Let's finish strong. Here's a fact that doesn't get enough attention. 9 American states charge zero income tax, not 1 penny. If you live in one of them, your high-tax neighbors are subsidizing the federal government for you. And if you don't live in one of them, well, the math is about to get interesting. Let's run the same scenario in 2 different states. You're a high earner pulling 300 grand. In a high-tax coastal state, you might pay 10 to 13% of your income in state tax alone. That's 30 grand a year. Gone. In a no-income tax state, that same 300 grand stays in your pocket. Same federal tax, same job, same skills. 30,000 more dollars every single year. Now project that out. 30,000 a year saved, invested in a broad index fund growing at 8%. After 10 years, you've got around 450,000 extra dollars. After 20 years, more than 1.4 million. The state you live in is quietly deciding whether you retire rich or retire stressed. But hold on, the math isn't as clean as the headlines make it sound. Some no-income tax states have brutal property taxes. Some have higher insurance costs because of weather. Some have weaker public schools or longer commutes. Moving for tax savings alone is a trap. Moving for tax savings plus a better quality of life, that's the win. Here's a quick framework. If you're young, remote, and single, moving to a zero-tax state is almost always a math win. If you've got kids in great public schools, stay, but maximize every tax-advantaged account we just talked about. If you're approaching retirement, move before you start drawing income from your investments. Your future self will thank you in 7 figures. All right, that's 9 traps and the levers to escape each one. But knowing 9 things isn't a plan. So in the final chapter, I'm going to give you the actual playbook. 3 levers to pull first, based on your income, your state, and where you are in your career. The escape plan. Let's wrap this thing. Okay, we've covered the 9 traps. Now I want to leave you with something practical. Don't try to do all 9 things at once. The smartest American earners don't either. Pick 3, the right 3 for your income, your state, and your life stage. Here's how to choose. Group 1, you're making 200 to 400,000 in a high-cost city. Your 3 levers are the Mega Backdoor Roth. That's the cheat code we just unlocked. Plus state tax planning. Even if you can't move yet, start thinking about it. Plus RSU discipline. Sell at vest, diversify into VTI. Those 3 alone could be worth $1 million over 20 years. Group 2, you're making 400 grand or more, you're married, probably dual income. Your 3 levers look different. SALT phase out strategy. Coordinate with your spouse on income timing to stay under the cliff. S-Corp election on any side income. That QBI deduction is enormous at your level. And max out HSA contributions. Your healthcare costs are about to climb, and the triple tax break is unmatched. Group 3. This one's for everybody. 3 universal levers that work at any income in any state. 1. Capture every dollar of your employer 401k match. That's free money you're leaving on the table. 2. Maximize your HSA every single year you have access to one. 3. Kill lifestyle creep. Every time you get a raise, save at least half of it before you adjust your lifestyle. That habit alone separates the wealthy from the perpetually broke. Look, the American financial system is not built for you. It is built around you. And the difference between feeling broke on a great salary and actually being free is knowing which levers to pull. You now know 9 of them. That puts you in front of 95% of the country. Now, here's where I need your help. Drop your state and a rough salary range in the comments. I read every single one, and I'll tell you the number 1 lever you should pull first. Generic, no personal info, just state and ballpark income. Together, we'll get more specific than any TikTok finance bro ever could. If this was useful, hit subscribe so the next one finds you. I'm releasing breakdowns on the HSA strategy, the S-Corp move, and how to optimize the new SALT cap before the 2030 deadline. Those are going to be massive for some of you. Don't miss them. Look, the system isn't fair, but it is figure-outable. Take one move, just one. Pick a lever this week and pull it. That's how every wealthy American you've ever heard of actually got started. Not all at once, just one at a time. You've got this. See you in the next video.